I love my Nintendo Switch. The Switch is without a doubt my favorite console of all time. I have been able, due to the versatility of this system, play so much more than I ever have been able to in the past. I'm a busy dad. I have 4 kids. But the versatility of the Switch means that I can play it on my breaks at work, I can play it on the couch, I can play it in my room, I can play it on the toilet. Oh, it's wonderful. I love this little system. I love it a little bit more than my wallet would like. In fact, I have bought 40 games on the Switch due to the wonderful grace of my beautiful wife. And so, I thought, what better use of my time and this YouTube channel that I don't make nearly enough videos for you guys, and I feel bad about that. But what better use would it be than to rank all 40 games? So, let's do it, why don't we?
Number 40. Alright, so I grew up in the early 90s and played video games in the early 90s, so of course NBA Jam was my jam. You know, this was back when I actually cared about sports. Yeah. So NBA Playgrounds comes out and I watch the trailers and I start getting excited because I feel like, wow, I'm going to get that gameplay again. I'm going to relive my childhood. Not as much. The controls feel so clunky. Even just timing the shots just doesn't feel quite right. And the loot box style unlocking of players is infuriating. Number 39. Alright, so you know what I was just saying about being a child in the early 90s, so as much as NBA Jam was such a big part of my life, Street Fighter 2 was so much of the gaming culture back then, and of course, I loved it. I would main Ryu, sometimes I'd, mix things up and go Guile. And so when I saw that Street Fighter 2 was getting re-released with extra content for the Nintendo Switch, I was beyond excited. Except the extra content is not exactly worth it, and oh boy, that $40 price tag hurts, especially with the announced collection coming next year that includes this, plus pretty much every other Street Fighter game for the same price. Why did I pay $40 for this? Why? Number 38. 1, 2, 1, 2. Hard pass. Now look, Wonder Switch actually gets a lot more hate than I feel like it deserves. In fact, it's the game that my kids gravitate towards more than anything else. They just love playing it so much. I just wish that I did too. Number 37. Man, do I need some Smash Brothers in my life. Brawlout came so close, but everything feels so limited. The character selection is limited. The stage selection is limited. There are no items. The controls, something feels off about them that I can't quite put my finger on. I had such great hopes for Brawlout, and it is still a fun game. It is a lot of fun. Just like everything on this list, I don't regret a single one of these purchases, but Brawlout was a little on the disappointing side. Number 36. So when I think about all the career choices that I've had in my life, the one thing that has never, ever come to mind is I don't know, sheep breeding. But somehow this little solitaire card game about just that caught my attention. And it is pretty fun, but its staying power isn't quite there for me, and that's why it's number 36 on my list. Number 35. I love playing games co-op. In fact, one of the big things about me is that gaming to me is a social thing, and so I love getting together with people and playing a good game. Nine Parchments came so close in so many ways being exactly that. I actually play it at work on my breaks with my brother-in-law who happens to work with me, and we have a lot of fun with it, but it seems very shallow. There doesn't seem to be all that much to it. There's a little bit of customization here and there, but outside of that, it's pretty limited. Number 34. So this game actually had some high expectations from me, not only because I had heard some great impressions of the game, but also because way forward I've always been a fan of them. Of course, you have to take those expectations and temper them by the fact that this was based on the recent Mummy movie, which wasn't quite so great. This game aims for Super Metroid, and Super Metroid is one of my top 5 games of all time. But it doesn't quite hit that mark. The shooting feels like it lacks some sort of impact for me, and I just couldn't get past that. And it really, really limited my enjoyment of the game. It's still a lot of fun, but that disappointment really kind of got to me. Number 33. Oh, Banjo-Kazooie. So many great memories. I loved everything about that game, just the general style of it, the controls, the searching for all of those hidden gems, and, you know, those jiggies. Yooka-Laylee is the one Kickstarter that I have ever backed, because it brought up so much of that nostalgia. I just wish that this was a little bit more polished. Luckily, with the Switch release, it's probably the most refined release of this game yet. They've had a lot of time in the oven, they've been able to fix a lot of things with the camera, with the controls, but it seems lacking a little bit of that soul that I was really hoping for. Still a great game, just not high enough on my list. Number 32. Ah, worms. There's just something that's so satisfying about giving these little creatures with a limited mobility some giant weapons and telling them to shoot each other. Oh, it's great, and that classic gameplay really does shine through here, but it also does start to show its age. Number 31. I am a huge fan of the Jackbox games, as you might see a little bit later on in this video. Use Your Words came up in the eShop, and I happened to be looking for something just for that weekend that could be a lot of fun with my friends. Use Your Words uses a lot of those same tenets that you have in the Jackbox games, but it's limited to one mode, which, while it is fun, and you are definitely guaranteed to have some laughs, doesn't quite make it on this list. Number 30. So I am a person who can tell when there is something that is absolutely genius and appreciate it for what it is. That game to me is Snake Pass. Here's a game that has you controlling in unique ways that you wouldn't have really thought of, but it works. It works surprisingly well. However, it is a little bit complicated and frustrating, and it can get to you. This was a great early purchase on my Switch, but it is still number 30 on my list. Number 29. Wait, Brady, what are you thinking? You are a Nintendo fanboy. How can you take a game that they published and put it so low on this list? Yeah, that's because ARMS is a wonderful game. It's a lot of fun, but there isn't much to it. Even the different fighters feel so similar that it lacks that finesse and that unique nature that you could have with every fight, and it gets a little bit samey. The gameplay is masterful, it's unique. I just wish that they did so much more with this formula. And in a year when you have games like Injustice 2, ARMS kind of falls short. Number 28. So the first thing that I always look for in a game is never the story. Now, as strange as that might seem, as you know, as I was growing up with my Super Nintendo, I was also growing up with my PC, and those LucasArts adventure games are always some of my favorites. Curse of Monkey Island is a masterstroke of a game. Oh, I love it so much. And so I always get excited by adventure games. You'll notice that I will actually have a few of these on this list. Oxenfree out of those does rank the lowest. And mainly it's because it's more or less a walking simulator. The dialogue feels very natural between these teenagers, but the gameplay itself is shallow. There's limited puzzles, and when you run into them, it's mainly going to be just pulling out your radio and finding the right station. The story, however, is really great, and I would definitely encourage that you purchase this one. Number 27. Alright, look, I'm gonna level with you. I am white. I am super freaking white. I didn't grow up with an appreciation for hip-hop culture like I probably should have. However, I have been letting little bits and pieces into my life. And Floor Kids is something that just charmed the crap out of me right out of the gate. This game is fun. It's a rhythm game unlike anything that you've ever seen because it's so free-flowing. Really, you can go any way that you want with the moves that you choose to do, with how you want to play this game. The problem is that openness, that freestyle, can also make it feel a little bit samey because you might fall into the same groove of doing the same combination of moves. And the game doesn't do enough to encourage you to try out different things. Number 26. So I mentioned earlier that I love Jackbox games. It is exactly what I love about gaming. It's getting people together, having fun, and with the Jackbox games, you have this accessibility that normally you don't have because anyone who has a phone can play along. Heck, you should check out my Jackbox 1 review to see exactly why it is that I love this game. Jackbox 4, however, has probably my least favorite group of games. While Fibbage 3 is wonderful, and Civic Doodle seems like it should be so much better than it is, I don't know, something just feels off about this entry. Maybe it's because Monster Seeking Monster does not appeal to me or my married friends, considering that it makes it kind of awkward to play together. Number 25. Oh man, there's something that is just so wonderful about logic puzzles. You know, it's why Sudoku was such a huge hit for so long. And while others were doing Sudoku, and I love myself some Sudoku as well, but Picross, man. Picross gets to me in ways that those other puzzle games just never have. And Picross S is a solid entry. My one knock against the game is that it's made by Jupiter, so it doesn't have that Nintendo polish that I'm used to in games like Picross DS or, you know, Picross 3D. And I really miss that character here, but it's still Picross, and it's still great. Number 24. So, growing up, I was a Nintendo kid, not a Sega kid. And so with that, I never really had the appreciation for Sonic that most people do. In fact, I just looked at it as, well, you hold right and the speed feels a little bit good for a little while and you occasionally jump, but then the gameplay just kind of stops your progression so much that that speed is never really satisfying. And that is still true in Sonic Mania. However, Sonic Mania is definitely the best Sonic game that they've made in years, and it has some segments and some bosses that really caught me off guard and got me to actually laugh. Sonic Mania is a great game that I would definitely recommend. Number 23. Advance Wars. I have always been a fan of strategy games, of games where you have to strategically move your armies across a battlefield and turn-based, and while Fire Emblem was always something that I would appreciate, it never really caught me like the Advance Wars series does. So when I saw Tiny Metal, just had to watch 10 seconds of footage and I knew that I was in 100%, because this basically is Advance Wars. This has some of the same sort of problem that you have in something like Picross S, though, where it lacks that Nintendo charm. You have some great art, some interesting characters, but I don't know what it is. It's just not quite as charming, not quite as polished. Number 22. I think I've mentioned my appreciation for adventure games. You know, those classic point and click. And so you can't get much more of a classic feel than you get out of Thimbleweed Park. It is a joy to go around this little town, interview these random characters, seeing just the fun and the humor come through so well. And Ransom the Clown, maybe my favorite character of the year. Oh, Ransom, you foul-mouthed little stinker. Number 21. I've played a few of the Shantae games in the past, and I love them. The art is great, the characters are fun, the music is great, just everything really adds up together. And Shantae Half Genie Hero is an excellent addition to this franchise. I know that there are some people in the industry who hate the term Metroidvania, but for me, Shantae is an excellent example of that, where it takes that Metroidvania aspect of you can unlock things as you gain new abilities, you can access new areas, and you have to kind of keep those maps in mind. But it breaks it out into individual levels so that it's a little bit more manageable, and it works really well on the Switch as you have it on the go. Number 20. Hey, would you look at that? We're halfway through the list. Whee! And what a great way to go into the top half with Batman the Telltale series. Now, Telltale is a company that I've had my offs and ons with them. I loved the first season of The Walking Dead. Season 2, not quite as much. Wasn't a big fan of The Wolf Among Us, but Tales from the Borderlands is one of my favorite games. And so Batman, you take that mythology of Batman, you take his rogues gallery, and you put him into a Telltale game, and I wasn't quite sure how much I'd like it, but I love it. The story is great, it's a lot of fun, it was actually really hard for me to put down. I definitely recommend Batman the Telltale series. Number 19. Sonic's Mean Bean Machine introduced me to Puyo Puyo, and it is a game that I love the crap out of on my Wii. In fact, on my Wii, it was probably my most played Virtual Console game. I love Puyo Puyo. My wife, she loves Tetris. And so I was able to buy Puyo Puyo Tetris and take care of both of us, and these franchises work together so well. Now, the story game is nothing to write home about, but the actual gameplay here is masterclass. I love it. Number 18. Hey, who doesn't love video game golf? You know, where you hit A, you wait for the bar to go up, you hit A again, and then you wait for it to go back down, and then you hit A again, and you try to make sure that you get it in the right place, and you make sure that the wind is just right. Well, why don't we take that, and then let's add a little bit, a sprinkle or two of Earthbound. And that's exactly what you get with Golf Story. It's a lot of fun. The humor is great. It's great uncovering this little world. The only issue is that it does feel a little bit limited, but the charm of the game will get you. Number 17. Oh, snipper clips. At the time that the Switch was released, it was exactly the distraction that I needed from Breath of the Wild to give me a little bit of a reprieve. It's the perfect example of the Switch's strong point, and that is being able to take off those Joy-Cons, hand it to someone else, and then play a game together. With snipper clips, you are able to take these little charming characters, cut pieces out of each other, solve puzzles, laugh, get so frustrated with each other, and then laugh some more. It's the perfect co-op game. Number 16. The Jackbox Party Pack 3 may just be my favorite of the Jackbox packs. Every game included is super strong and exactly what I want from the Jackbox experience. In fact, out of all four that you can find on the eShop, Jackbox Party Pack 3 is definitely the one that I would most highly recommend. Get it, play it with your family, love it, it's so great. Number 15. You know, there are certain elements to a co-op game that make it extra fun. Being able to work together and just have that camaraderie and, you know, finding your groove with each other is one thing, but screwing that groove up, not connecting quite the right way, getting frustrated, and then laughing your entire way through it is what makes co-op so amazing. And Overcooked is exactly that. It is a game where you can get together with 4 friends, try to cook the perfect meals together and get them out. Make sure that you have everybody on different jobs, but the game will throw curveballs at you every which way. Oh man, do I love this game. Number 14. So you'll notice that Worms WMD, while a great game, was pretty low on my list. That's because SteamWorld Heist came out, and it takes that same basic formula, ramps it up to 11, and makes it so much fun. Man, Image and Form have quickly become one of my absolute favorite developers, and their dedication to the Switch makes me very excited for the future. This game has you guiding these robots that you have in a party in a turn-based way. You have to aim these guns just right to make sure that you get where you need to go, collect all the loot. Oh, it's a blast, and I highly recommend it. Number 13. Have you ever played a game that gives you such anxiety over every step, where you feel like you have to be exactly perfect, and it drives you crazy when you're not, but when you are, oh, you just get into the groove and it feels so damn good. Yeah, that right there, that is Thumper. Number 12. Look, there is a reason why Rocket League is the sensation that it is. And that's because it is just plain fun. Now, most Rocket League players that you will meet will fully admit that they suck at the game. That hardly ever do they mean to get a goal when they get a goal. That things can be frustrating. That they look at these players online and just go, how do you do that? How do you do that flip in just the right way, at just the right second to get that goal? Oh, I wish I had that talent. And yet, we all still keep playing it because it is so much fun. It is well designed. That feeling of speed is great. Being able to help your team is great. Oh, can't recommend Rocket League on the Switch enough. Number 11. So, I had never really delved into the roguelike genre. I've heard so many people talk so highly about different games in the genre, whether it be Binding of Isaac or Spelunky, but I couldn't ever get to those games, even though I did have them on other systems. But Enter the Gungeon just hit this chord with me. And it might be the zany humor, it might be the fun-looking characters, but something got to me about this game, and it really dug its claws into me. I haven't gotten past the 4th floor yet, and yet I still can't stop playing. It is a blast. It is so much fun. Just every new weapon that you unlock that is a reference to something in pop culture. It will make you smile, it'll make you laugh, and that's why it is definitely number 11 on this list. Number 10. Remember how I mentioned before that I just really appreciate the developers Image and Form for everything that they do? SteamWorld Dig 2 is the pinnacle of all of their creations. It is a Metroidvania where just the general feel of movement, the general feel of progress, and that gameplay loop of going down, getting the loot, getting back up to the town, unlocking things, it is a wonderful feeling. And it plays so well that this might be one of my favorite Metroidvanias ever created. Number 9. What can you say about Mario Kart that hasn't already been said? Well, not very much as it turns out. Which is why we got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch. Now, I played the crap out of Mario Kart 8 on my Wii U, because I was one of the 5 people out there that actually purchased and loved their Wii U. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe doesn't add too much to the formula, but what it adds is wonderful. The new battle mode brings back those memories of Mario Kart 64, being around with my friends, and going around those stages in a way that battle modes haven't felt in Mario Kart for years. And it's definitely number 9 on my list. Number 8. Man, do I love Splatoon. The secret to a good shooter, especially a good online shooter, is making sure that everyone feels like they are always contributing. That is what makes Overwatch as good as it is. Because every match of Overwatch, I feel like I've actually accomplished something. And Splatoon 2 gives me that exact same feeling. Whether it's getting that exact right kill with the splasher bucket, or whether it's just dominating with a paintbrush, covering as much ground as possible, getting into that enemy territory and not giving it up, it feels awesome. Number 7. Oh man. Rip and tear, boys. Rip and tear. Doom for the Nintendo Switch feels great. Doom does something that I think that more modern shooters need to do, and that it encourages you to engage the enemy rather than staying back. By taking health and making it so that you can only regenerate health, if you go in there and you attack more enemies, just is a satisfying feeling, and it keeps the action moving in a very satisfying way. Doom, I like it a lot. Number 6. So I somehow, even though I have a 3DS, I have a Wii U, I have a PS4, I have an Xbox One, and somehow I never got around to playing Shovel Knight. So when I finally got my Switch, Shovel Knight had to be one of my first purchases. I had heard so many great things about it that I couldn't deprive myself of that experience, and I am very glad that I did. The Shovel Knight Treasure Trove is wonderful. Not only is the main game itself great, but Spectre of Torment just has movement that is so satisfying, so much fun, and the story is great. Oh man, this is one of my favorite games that I have on my Switch. Number 5. So I haven't really ever gotten too much into XCOM in my life. However, Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle makes me want to, because the combat in this game feels so satisfying. Being able to make sure that I get behind just the right cover, that I initiate just the right moves at just the right time, and seeing the shots line up, stacking on top of each other. It's a wonderfully satisfying game, and definitely deserves its place in my top 5. Number 4. Fusro-da, Fusro-da, Fusro, Fusro-da, 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 Fusro, Fusro, da 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 da. Yeah, I know that those aren't actually the words, but hey, this was the first real chance that I've given Skyrim. I've dabbled in the past. I've done that first scene of the attack of the dragon on the village so many damn times on the PC, and then again on my PS4, and I still couldn't ever get into it. But the Switch, and the versatility of the system, and being able to just play it for 15 minutes at a time just made all the difference to me, and I got addicted to this world. Of course, you had that Bethesda jank in there. You know, they all have, oh look, that fox isn't actually walking, it's just kind of skating around, and yep, it's looking at me. Hey there, fox. But the world itself is so much fun to go and discover all these little factions and get into the story and the lore. It's a giant adventure that allows you to go anywhere and do anything, and that I can appreciate. Number 3. You know, there's one word that has come up in every conversation that I've ever had with anybody when it comes to Mario Odyssey. Happy. This game just brings so much joy and happiness, and it is a pleasure to play every second as you are throwing your hat onto new creatures and finding out the new things that you can do there. Every time that you find a moon, every time that you use an ability in a new way, every time that you find out, wait, I can throw my hat, and then I can just kind of dive onto it, then I can throw my hat again and do another dive to get longer, and being able to figure out all these different aspects and have the controls be so spot on. This game is perfection. Nintendo, you are amazing. Number 2. But Brady, Mario Odyssey, you put that at number 3. How can you do that? It can't be the third best game on the Switch. There can't be two better games. I'm sorry, Mario, but I got lost in Stardew Valley. Now, for the uninitiated, Stardew Valley is very akin to something like Harvest Moon, where you have this farm that you cultivate, that you grow your crops, you sell your crops, you walk amongst the townspeople. But there's something that is so satisfying about, once again, that gameplay loop in this game that makes this so hard to put down. The gameplay is wonderfully designed. It feels great going into those mines for the first time, discovering new things in this world, while also building and expanding your farm. It all feels wonderful, and I couldn't put it down, and that's why sorry Mario, it has to be my number 2. Number 1. The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild blew me away. I had extremely high expectations for this game. Zelda has always been my favorite franchise. If you look at my wedding ring, it's a Zelda ring. Like, you have the Triforce on there, you have the whole Twilight Princess eagle-looking thing with the Triforce head. And I've never quite understood that one, by the way. You look at my phone case, and yep, it's Zelda. You look at the background on my phone, yep, it's Zelda. Zelda is in so much of my life. And this game was such a departure from everything that I loved about the games, everything that really attached me to the series, and yet it surpassed every other Zelda game to me and became not only my favorite game on the Switch, but my favorite game of all time. The joy of exploring, the wonder, the fascination of this world is beyond any other game that I have ever played. And it is the #1 reason to own a Switch.
Now, of course, that's just my personal list. And I'm sure that you guys will have your own varying interests and your own particular favorites. And I want to hear about it. Go ahead and write in the comments below. Let me know what you think. What do you like? What didn't you like? What obvious omissions do I have? I mean, I don't get paid to play games like some people, so I can't exactly afford to buy them all. But that Pokemon trainer mentality is catching up to me, and I might have to catch them all eventually. Once again, sweetheart, I'm sorry.
We're reviews versus the world.